In all of sports, quarterback is recognized as one of the most difficult positions there is, with the highest amount of pressure by being the one that has the most impact consistently on the outcome of a game. That job description brings a high value, as seen in the contracts that are now projected to hit the range of $60 million a year. For reference, Aaron Donald is the highest paid non-quarterback player in the league at $31.7 million. That's less than 16 other quarterbacks. That high of a paycheck brings an amount of attention and scrutiny that no other position has to face. Arguably, one of the QBs that faces scrutiny unlike any other is the one that plays for the highest valued sports team in the world, Dak Prescott. After that embarrassing loss to Green Bay, people are using it as fuel to strengthen their views about, hey, it's time to move on from Dak. CeeDee's mom even voiced her own opinions. And look, I respect it, but I don't agree with any of it. When you look at this last year, Dak played some of his best ball of his entire career, playing to the level of an MVP nomination. He led the league in touchdown passes and threw less than 10 interceptions. One game, no matter how big, can dispute how well he and the team played in the regular season. Yes, that playoff game wasn't Dak's best performance. He had a couple mistakes. That pick six was a big factor. However, he's taken the majority of the blame, totally masking the real issues and bigger issues the Cowboys had in that game and still have. Look at the final two teams in the AFC. The difference between them and the Cowboys is not from the QB position. Look, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes are great and give their team an edge. I would not argue if you said that they're better than Dak. You have to be real though. They are not what separate their teams from the Cowboys. Both defenses played at an elite level in the playoffs, giving their team a chance to overcome offensive struggles. Look at the Ravens game versus the Chiefs. The Ravens had 3 turnovers. 3, yet the defense played outstanding, holding the future Super Bowl champs to 17 points. I haven't heard that many people say to trade Lamar, he's not it. In fact, he won the MVP after his offense only put up 10 points in the championship game. Now, by no means am I saying that Lamar lost him that game. I'm just simply applying that the criticism is not equal in the position. Does the AFC Championship or a championship game hold that much value? Because if it does, I would argue if Dak made it to the NFC Championship game and then the offense only put up 10 points, it would still be loud, a lot louder than it is for Lamar. Anyways, let's look at the Chiefs. The difference maker for them was not the highest valued position. It was the defense. Patrick Mahomes gets all the headlines, which is fair. He is the best QB in the league. However, the defense was the biggest difference maker in the entire playoffs. They held the #1 offense in the AFC to 10 points at home, and then held the Niners to 22 points in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs offense had 2 turnovers. They were the biggest factor in that game. They gave Patrick Mahomes and the offense the opportunity to withstand the early struggles and the early interception and the early fumble to come back and win the game at the end. You also cannot overlook how the Chiefs had 19 consecutive drives without a touchdown in the playoffs, and yet they still found a way to go on a run and win the Super Bowl. That stat line alone shows how big and how much of a factor that defense was. Now, when you look at the NFC side, them too had great defenses. But when you look at it, their difference was their dominating run games. Their ability to run the football effectively alleviated so much pressure off the QBs. That was a delicacy for Dak. If you watch the Cowboys this year, then you know how much of a struggle it was to run the football, and that hurt them in the playoffs. They had a total of 123 yards in the Packers game. Dak had 45 of those yards. Defensive-wise, the Packers had 4 sacks. For the Cowboys, they had 0. And that pass rush was looked at as the strength of not only the defense, but the team. At the end of the day, the Cowboys were a good team and played well enough and earned the number 2 seed. They could just not translate it into the playoffs. And when you look at the team as a whole, Dak was more consistent throughout the year than the defense was or the running game was. This whole video really could just be about how poorly the media and the fans view the QB. The QBs are vital, but football is way too complex with way too many moving pieces to always point the finger at the quarterback when something goes right or wrong. I just don't understand how Dak is the most scrutinized QB coming out of the playoffs when the defense could not make a stop and do their job, allowing 7 yards per game. The defense did not stick up to their bargain and did not do a good job, putting even more pressure on Dak and the offense and making a fine line that the offense could walk. To wrap this all up, the Cowboys have underachieved year in and year out, and that is the most heartbreaking part. They have had great talent, but the team as a whole has always fallen short. QBs are way too hard to come by. That's why when you do make a change, it has to be clear that they are the source of the issue. If that's not the case, then you have to follow the market and pay them, especially if they are a top 10 QB in the league. Every team has the same amount of cap space and value at the QB position. So the real deciding factor is how they manipulate it. They could do this by many ways. One of the ways is extending the QBs, like hopefully the Cowboys will do with Dak. It will soften the cap hit and then let them focus on building around Dak and fixing the problems like the run game and the inconsistency on defense. The organization as a whole needs to reflect and think about why it goes wrong every year in the playoffs so that they can get over the hurdle, a hurdle that has been there long before Dak has showed up. Anyways, if you watched this far, I'm interested to hear what you feel about the situation. Do you kind of agree with me, or do you feel it's time to move on from Dak? Thank you for watching and have a great week. Peace.